गुड मॉर्निंग एंड अस्सलाम वालेकुम फेलोज। आज है नाइन्थ डे 9 ऑफ स्टार्टअप समर स्कूल और सेकंड वीक का फोर्थ डे है। दिस वीक इज अबाउट डिज़ाइन थिंकिंग एंड इनोवेशन एंड वी रियली एक्साइटेड कि आज हमारे साथ एक बहुत इंडस्ट्री एक्सपीरियंस रखने वाले मिस्टर खुरम सफदर साहब हैं। खुरम साहब वाइस प्रेसिडेंट हैं सिस्टम्स लिमिटेड के। सिस्टम्स लिमिटेड इज़ वन ऑफ द largest IT companies in Pakistan, and they're doing amazing service to the nation in IT and technology. And we're really grateful, Khurram Saab, to have you. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much. The pleasure is all mine too.
Khurram Saab has a 17 plus years of experience in customer experience design thinking. और इनको बुलाने का आज real purpose है कि ये हमें corporate side का इंट्रोड्यूस करें डिजाइन थिंकिंग कि कॉर्पोरेट्स डिजाइन थिंकिंग को कैसे यूज करते हैं अपने कॉम्प्लेक्स प्रॉब्लम सॉल्विंग के लिए। एक साइड हमने कल कवर किया कि कैसे स्टार्टअप्स डिजाइन थिंकिंग को यूज कर सकते हैं, दैट्स मोर ऑफ एकेडमिक साइड। बट खुरम साहब हमें एक बहुत प्रैक्टिकल साइड और कॉर्पोरेट साइड बताएंगे कि ये रियल लाइफ में जहाँ पे इनके पास हर दिन हर वीक नए नए कॉम्प्लेक्स प्रॉब्लम्स आ रहे होते हैं तो ये उनको कैसे यूज कर रहे होंगे। I just forgot one thing. Mr. Vaid bin Zikriya, Vice Chancellor Lahore University, is kind enough to be with us. Thank you very much, sir, for your continuous support, time, and effort.
Welcome.
Khurram Sahab, the floor is yours.
Okay, ji. I would like to present, so let me put up my screen so that you are able to see this. Give me just 1 second. And let me know once you can see the screen. Stop sharing.
सर खुरम, अगर आप काइंडली इसके साइड पैन्स क्लोज कर दें तो दिस वुड बी गुड एनफ।
जी वही करने लगे।
Great, now it's visible.
So जिस तरह इमरान ने भी स्टार्टिंग में मेंशन किया है, the overall objective and aim for today's session is all about design thinking, but the real application of design thinking in the corporate world. Definitely you must have heard Imran telling all about design thinking and how you can inculcate the design thinking concept into the startup factory. And the similar sort of concept we apply on a daily basis for our methodology during the corporate world. So I would like to start. Definitely, Imran has already introduced me. My name is Khurram, and I am a user experience and human design-centered expert, having 17 years of experience in designing those digital products and implementing those UX or CX strategies that you call. Currently, I lead the customer experience and design group at Systems Limited, and I've been with them for associated for about 3 years. From an educational background perspective, I hold a master's degree from London as strategic management, MBA strategic management back in 2005. I am the only second Pakistani to be certified as the UX certified from NNG, and I'm also a product owner certification certified from Scrum Alliance. And just to mention, on top of this, I'm also a design thinking expert and strategist, and I've also got the certification from NNG on top of that. So from an overall background perspective, 17 years of experience, roughly 2 years and 3 months so far with systems. Before that, I was associated with multiple verticals such as retail, communication service provider, healthcare, e-commerce, across different time zones, including European market, where I was based out of UK, Middle Eastern market, where I was heading customer experience for a big CSP organization, or Redo, in Qatar, and then obviously South Asian markets. So this is a quick snapshot of who I am. So let's just quickly get into to what really design thinking is. So what I actually want you to do for the audience, whoever is looking and seeing this overall presentation, I want you to let's say whatever is next to you, let's take 45 or 30 seconds or 15 seconds to draw your neighbor. And that neighbor could be a chair or a table or a person who's sitting next to you. And the reason why for that is I really want to see how creative you are. Because this is what design thinking is all about, and I'll give you the essence in about 5 seconds afterwards. So just take your time, take a look at what's around you, draw that, and let's have some fun on that. Right. So about 5 seconds now. So how did it feel? Some of you might be feeling that there's a funny exercise. Some of you might have been feeling that, oh, I was pressured to draw something which is just right next to me because I can't draw. So my question to you is, why do you feel pressured? Nobody asked you to show your artistic ability, and that's where the design thinking comes into place, because design thinking is primarily associated to artistic ability. Mostly. And when you think of design, people normally think of design as an interior design or artistic ability on top of that. Many of you think that you are not creative because you can't draw properly. But research shows, on the other hand, that if you ask questions to a room full of people, only a half will put up their hand and say that, oh, yes, I'm creative. Because people tend to equate creative ability with artistic ability. And this is what I want to prove it to you, that artistic ability is not design. It's the outcome of design. The end product of design is what you're looking at. So the actual design is all that hard work that you've put in, the quarrels, the battles, the discussions that went into, that's the actual real essence of design. So when design by definition, if you look at design, I mean, both of these could be design. So this is an interior design piece where if you look at it, you will see that this is a design part, definitely an interior design, but not the real essence of design thinking. When I look at this could also be considered as design, because this particular product was developed for people to make sure that nobody steals their lunch boxes in the school. So it's a very classic example of a design thinking problem that we usually incur in our daily basis life, and this is what we do on a daily basis in the corporate world to solve real problems, because the essence of design thinking is all about solving those complex problems by creating those simple solutions towards it. So what is design? Design is all about the purpose or intention that exists behind that fact, right? So design by definition is the purpose or intention that goes with it. So if I ask you to look at this picture, some of you would come back to me and say this is just parts, or some of you would say this is just an assembly line. So it's just your perception on top of it, but the actual thing is the purpose that drives it forward is the actual essence of design thinking. And similar to this one, if I show you a picture of a man and a woman going towards a beach, you would answer me that, oh, this is fun. They might be having loud radio, or this is beaches. But again, keep that in mind, that it's all about the purpose. The actual component is designed for the purpose, and the intention is there. Moving forward, so now that I've set the base, design thinking is not about design. So we are not going to equate, and this is exactly what we do in a practical application in our corporate world. Whenever we take head on to a problem, we keep the artistic ability on a side, and what we are trying to focus on the creative confidence of people. Because the fallacy of the design is that it's related to creative confidence. We in the corporate world are trying to build that creative confidence, which means that you take on the complex problems that don't have a clear answer, and we teach all our colleagues and employees that they need to participate in something that they are not good at, and let's be able to present that unfinished work, because unfinished work is something by nature is called innovation anyway. So let's move forward. So in essence, it teaches us the ability to participate, as I mentioned, something we're not good at, and building that creative confidence on top of that. However, this is a very, I would say, unique sort of a premise, because the design thinking, or let's say the human-centered design approach, you cannot solve a problem unless you truly understand the pain point that it has actually caused you. Therefore, the design process begins with a deep understanding, the the empathy of what people need or what people want, or in the other word, very simple words, what's desirable. Because what's desirable is something that we are going to focus on people. So the first part that whenever we take a project on, is that we start with immersing ourselves into what's the data available for that particular customer, what particular customer segment, or in terms of a persona. So this is how we start the actual project. So start by focusing on the people. With the range of desirable solution, then we figure out that if a business or a solution proposition, which one are financially feasible for the client. And this is exactly what you would do in your domains. You would have to weigh out all your possible solution on an effort impact matrix to see which one has the least impact, most impact with the least amount of effort. And then afterwards, the best solution theoretically, obviously, will lie in the sweet spot, in the intersection of whether it's desirable, it's viable, and it's feasible. So the actual business value of design. So it teaches us that the ability that we're supposed to bring transformation through the business design. And when we say about that, the transformation through design thinking, that's the real business value for this one, because it's all about how you collaborate with people who are good at things that you're not good at. And at the same time, you are good at things without bigfooting the process. One of the famous quotes from Janine is that the impact of design thinking can help us is not just coming up with better product and services for tomorrow, but in the long term, building a set of durable organizational capabilities that mean we can continue to survive and prosper in the future. Just to give you a quick overview of the organization side, 71%. I mean, these are statistics which are out there on the web and can easily be found. The 71% of organizations that practice design thinking into their daily lives has improved their working culture on a team level. So that's how impactful design thinking is. And design thinking is all about collaboration, co-creation, and ideation together. It has nothing to do with any specific set of vertical or a product or service. It applies across every single horizontal or every single competency, whether you talk about HR, whether you talk about technology services or application development, every single area, design thinking can easily inculcate those practices within that. And that is the overall aim of design thinking. Now, how design thinking gets into the process? Design thinking is an ideology. It's supported by the accompanying process, and that process revolves around the customer. So the customer in the center, and then the process revolves around that. So it starts with the hands-on, user-centric approach of problem solving that can lead to innovation, and then innovation can lead to differentiation and a competitive advantage. 70% of the CEOs during a study by Nielsen says that customer experience is one of the key differentiators in organizations competing against each other. So if you're trying to build up a product, if you're trying to build up an organization, the factor that you need to bring in is customer experience. And design thinking is something that will help you build that customer experience differentiator by bringing all that human-centered design methodology into practice. So So the process itself has already been explained yesterday by Imran in depth. You start with understanding what your pain points are. You then go and explore what ideas you can bring on the table to get those complex issues resolved by a simple solution, and then obviously go and materialize those by testing them out and prototyping, then obviously maintaining them. But the real challenge comes in that the design thinking process is not linear. It's a very iterative process. And this is the essence of the projects that we do on a daily basis here in the corporate world. Because whenever a process comes in, we have stopped following the usual waterfall method approach over here, because now everything's is on very iterative basis. So once we have researched, we have moved on to ideation, we have developed, let's say, 4 to 5 ideas. Those ideas can again then be taken back to the stakeholders and to the real user who's going to use them, and take feedback on top of that. And that feedback can then again be incorporated into the ideas to make them more refined. And that's how we keep on going. We keep on learning until we finish the product and we get it delivered. And the end product is basically a very, very refined product, because we've gone through multiple sort of iterations, multiple feedback rounds, and that has helped to refine the product. But the process still doesn't end there, because during the maintenance phase, we still are improving. The role of a product manager never stops. He is always evolving. He's always trying to find better and better ways to solve customers' problems in a much more easier way. And that is something that you should be focusing on entirely in your career. That whenever a solution is presented and whenever a solution has been delivered to customer, keep improving on top of that, because there are always room for improvement. And studies have suggested that definitely design thinking is one of the processes and methodologies that really pushes that concept forward. So the overall concept of design thinking is all about sometimes focusing your energies to one solution, and by looking at it from one angle, and then once you have thought through the definition, once you've thought through what the actual problem is, then you actually go and diverge on different sort of ideas. So the convergence and divergence is something that we apply at the corporate level a lot, because once we go on to certain set of client meetings, we are very focused in our discussions. We are very focused to get those requirements, stakeholders, assessments, and all those things that the client is looking for in a very focused sort of manner. But once we go and ideate with the client, or let's say with the real user, or within our team, that's where we flare up, because that's where the real brainstorming thing comes out, and we defer any judgment. We encourage wild ideas, and those wild ideas, we encourage everyone to build upon the other people's idea, because that's how you will bring more creative ideas, and any creative ideas can lead to a solution. So that's one of the things you should definitely. And this is an example. This is an example of how a corporate has taken a very, very large set of problem which is out there in the world, and they've applied design thinking principles on top of it, and they have come out to a very simple solution. Now, so let me give you a quick premise of what this is all about. So each year, 20 million premature and low birth weight babies are born. In developing countries, mortality of these infants is practically very high because incubators are extremely rare. Most hospitals and clinics in developing countries don't have enough incubators to meet the tremendous need. New incubators are extremely expensive, and donated incubators are confusing to operate and are difficult to maintain. We have seen exactly same situation during this COVID pandemic. When we needed ventilators, the ventilators were not available. They were very high. They were extremely expensive, and you probably would have to do a lot of let's say research, or do a lot of let's say investment in order to get those on board. And so this is exactly an exercise over here. So the organization Design That Matters challenged the students to design a better incubator for the developing world. So now this case study is from Kathmandu, the capital near Nepal. So after spending several days observing the neonatal unit of the Kathmandu hospital, the team asked to be taken out to the city to see how premature infants are cared for in the rural areas. Now, this is where they've learned two alarming things. And as I just mentioned to you, that everything starts with immersing yourself with the real users and looking to know what are the pain points. So this is where they have learned two interesting and alarming facts. First, the overwhelming majority of all premature Nepalese infants were born in the rural areas. And second, most of these infants would never take it to the hospital. They realized that no matter how good their design for an incubator was, it would never help the babies if it stayed in the hospital. Because the incubator was stationed in the hospital, and those kids were born in the rural areas. To save maximum number of lives, their design would have to function in rural environment. It have to work without electricity and be transportable. It has to be very intuitive, sanitizable, culturally appropriate. And when I say intuitive, the reason why I said that, because most of the rural areas, let's say users, will not be that literate who can actually use that. So they have to keep all those users' need in mind. Similar to what you will do whenever you have a project or a product that you will take it forward, or whatever we do when we have a real project at hand for the customer. And then definitely at the end, you probably would have to make sure that it's inexpensive so that they can actually use. So the product by the end, what they've developed, the team had created the first prototype of Embrace Incubator. This is a case study that you can go and look up, and you'll get more details. The design looks something like a sleeping bag. As you can see, it wrapped around a premature infant and a pouch of phase-charged material. They call it PCM, kept that baby's body exactly at the right temperature and maintained this temperature for up to 4 hours. After 4 hours, the PCM pouch could be recharged by submerging it into a boiling water for a few minutes, which is, again, something easily accessible even at the rural side. And this really helped out in terms of reducing that mortality, the mortality rate in those rural areas. And at the end of the day, now this case study is being taught across all the design thinking schools, because of the fact that it has really embraced the process of design thinking and has come out to produce a product which is as simple to be used by people living in the rural areas. And definitely we are saving lives, and the babies are now healthy and happy. And this is the example of Nina, who was born premature at 7 or 6.5 months. And you could see at the right side that she's now fully grown up and having celebrated her second birthday on that day. So again, just to reiterate, we do exactly the same. Get to know your user. This is the first step. You should discover your user pain points, unearth those pain points, because that's really important. Unless you know what you're tackling to. Because this is exactly what we do over here, and then obviously based on those pain points, you go deep dive and go through those design concepts and break through those innovations. The understand part of the design thinking, what we need to be very mindful, and this is something that we teach in the corporate world also. You are not the user. You have to separate yourself. You have to separate the assumption part from your side, and you need to focus on the real user, because assumption puts you at a very competitive disadvantage, and you need to keep that out of the equation. You are not your user. You cannot know what your user is looking for. We definitely have heard a lot of talks within the corporate world where once a project comes in, the team huddles up and they say, हर कोई उसमें कह रहा था कि मुझे लगता है ऐसे होगा, मुझे लगता है ऐसे होना चाहिए. This is what I think. No, मेरे ख्याल से ऐसा होना चाहिए. So that is something that we need to keep completely aside if you want to focus ourselves on design thinking, because you are not the user. You can only immerse yourself by knowing the pain points and knowing the real scenarios or the contextual scenarios of the customer. Only then you will be able to say, yes, I know the customer. But again, even at that time, you are not the customer. So keep that in mind always. Here an example of a girl trying to pick out a book. Again, as I said, I have no context of what the girl is trying to do, so I cannot really say on behalf of the girl. So if I asked this question to a room full of students or a room full of adults or a room full of people, everyone will have its own opinion. She is trying to pick up a book. She is trying to place a book back. She is just trying to take a look at the history book or anything. Everyone will have his own opinion. The reason why we don't know for the exact reason, because we have not submerged ourselves and we have not talked to the user and we have not listened to the user. So that is why the understand phase is the most important phase in all of that, because once we have not built up the real essence of design of the understanding, we cannot move forward. And here goes one of the famous quotes by the famous Henry Ford, that if I've asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. And definitely, if faster horses was born, were produced some way, then obviously we would not be living in an era where we have fast cars. And that is the classic example. So the real solution is not what they think or they need, what they say they need, what an offering manager thinks they need. It's all about the users and what the users really needs are. Empathize. Empathize is the key to your problem space in every single product, every single service, or every single organization who's trying to bring out solutions at the front. Because unless you empathize, you will not be able to get to know about the other person. You can only feel how the other person feels by putting your foot in his shoes. And empathy is not sympathy. There's a very fine line between these two, but this is a very clear understanding, and this is exactly what we do in our daily lives in the corporate world, because we keep sympathy on the side. We cannot be sympathetic with the customer or the client. We definitely have to empathize with the customer. We need to really understand what they are feeling. If they're looking to build up let's say a digital product, the first question that we ask normally during our sessions: what are your actual frustrations? What do you really want the product to look like in the next 2-3 years? And so we ask all those questions that would actually lead us to know more about the product and more about what the user needs are, because we need to associate our solution to their feelings. We need to associate our solutions to what they're looking for, and we have to experience. So at times what we do is we do our discovery sessions, and those discovery sessions are maybe a day long, maybe 2 days long, and those sessions we completely deep dive with the client. We completely deep dive with the customer by actually going through their life cycle. So if we're looking to build up a mobile application, and the mobile application, for example, is targeted towards consumers who want to have financial wallet to them. So we would sit with the stakeholders first to see what are the needs that they want to put into that particular use case. And then once we've done that, we would go and we would do the contextual inquiry, which means that we will sit with real users. We will talk to them and we will ask them that what sort of features they want to be added into this app that will make their life easier. And then we take those recommendations back to the stakeholder or the client, and we explain to them the need and the requirement. And based on that, again, we do the same effort impact analysis. and then we prioritize those solutions or feature set that is really relevant for the users to put that out into the first phase of the delivery. And that's how we go forward. And that is what the MVP model is all about. You produce a minimal viable product which has the feature set which are very, very required, relevant to the user, and they cannot live or let's say perform their functions without it. So that's the difference between why we need to empathize more with our users. And during that, this is one of the things that we do on a, let's say, on a consistent basis, where we do empathy mapping for our users. So we need to know what their thinkings are, what their expectations are, how does the user feel, and what is he saying. And that empathy map really gives us the overview of what our users looking for. What does he thinks about certain perspective, keeping the context in mind. Obviously, we would not want to flare away too much. We would want to keep the discussion, or let's say, the context to relevance to what he's looking for. And based on that, the empathy map is created. The empathy map gives you a ton load of information that helps us in order to build that product, which is based around the user needs. And that's how you try to discover, by clubbing those pain points into a journey, because we want to plug in where does your users experiencing the major pains, and you can only do that by putting out a stepwise journey plan for the customer, because the pain areas are always the areas of opportunity, and this is what the corporate world strives upon. So we go into a client, we take the deep dive, we pan out what the pain points are. Those pain points becomes our opportunity, because that opportunity can then again be cross-sell to the client, and we can get more revenue on top of that. So from a corporate perspective, from a business perspective, the real value of design is not only to have an end product which is usable by the customer and is very intuitive and is being used properly. It also generates extra value for you by bringing out extra opportunities, which can then be replicated into more business. In fact, so a quick example of how you can map out the journey phases to look at the opportunity is by dividing into different phases. Phases could be phases or steps could be based on the user scenario itself. You could start with research, compare, buy, use, or you can have your own steps, and based on what the context is all about, what the customer is doing. You've already assessed that during the empathy mapping, what the customer is thinking, what the customer is feeling. You've already done that. And the last part would be, what opportunities does the user have at each of these stages? And then you go and define. And when you say you go and define the problem set. And this is where you would act as a business analyst, or you would act as a let's say a real UX champion or a strategist to define the real problem for the customer. Because designers, they don't try to search for a solution, as Don Norman said. And even that, instead of solving that problem, they stop to consider a wide range of potential solutions. So if you remember the slide that I presented just a few slides back, where I said we would flare up, we would diverge ourselves into different solutions. This is what Don Norman is referring to. And only then will they finally converge upon their proposal. And that is the whole process is called design thinking. So the need statements would clearly define your ideation, clearly defines what your problem set is, and it would lead you towards ideation. You can use this small example of how you can pan out a need statement where a user needs a way to do XYZ so that he can do XYZ. An example could be a teen needs a way to to have healthy food so that he gets his vitamins, and the actual need statement could be a 9th grader at a new school needs a way to feel more socially accepted when eating healthy, so that his social risk isn't more dangerous than a healthy risk. So we call these how might we's. So how might we define the how might we in every single project, because these are your areas that we are going to focus. These are your problem statements, and we go and build our solution based on those problem statements. And this is one of the things that we preach and teach within our project governance, because we are supposed to make sure that we do these things, because these things are being done internationally and have yielded good results. Another example of a need statement: James, the introverted movie buff, needs a way to find a TV that fits his needs quickly, so that he can spend less time configuring TV and more time configuring movies. So you can see that this is a very generic example, but the need statements can be made for anything. So it doesn't really have to be a business problem, doesn't really have to be a technical IT problem. It can be related to anything that you do on a daily basis. So it's very relatable to you, your use cases, to your problems, and to everything that you do. And then finally, this is where you will bring in the high energy workshops. We do this on a consistent basis with our clients. We bring in different stakeholders from different competencies. We bring in the stakeholders. We bring in all the other people, like the UX designer, the technical architect, the business analyst, and the client, and one of the real users, and bring that team into a real energized sort of a workshop to ideate for different sort of solutions. One of the classic examples of Pixar, before being so famous, Pixar was trying to produce so many movies, but were not actually getting successful. So they were focusing on quantity over quality at a certain point in time, and that's and that is why the founder of Pixar said that early on all of our movies sucked, because they were just flaring out. They were trying to different ideas, and not all of those ideas would actually work. But eventually it worked, and now you can see that where Pixar is. And this is exactly what happens within our business space, because the concept within the IT industry is fail fast. It's developed exactly based on this. The software development lifecycle or the startup mentality is fail fast mentality. You would have to quickly understand what your user is looking for. You quickly have to go and ideate because of different solutions, and then you go and test it out. And when you go and test it out, some of them might fail, but that should not bog you down, because look at one of the big companies. They have done the same. They failed at multiple instances, but they kept consistent. They kept refining. They kept it to the real process, and then eventually they got succeeded. So the best way to get a good idea is to get a lot of ideas. I mean, there you go. Linus nailed it perfectly for you. You cannot have just one idea and think that this is going to work. You probably will have to bring in a lot of different ideas and then test those ideas and get that. So example from practical corporate world, clients would never want us to present them one particular solution to their problem. We go in with a set of solutions, and the solution definitely will have an effort impact analysis on top of that, so that the user can then, or the client can then decide based on on all the research that we've done in the past, that will help them decide on what level they should, what solution they should pick and try it out at the first. So it's very practical. It's something which we do on a very practical basis. So the rules of design thinking that you keep in mind, that we follow on as a religious sort of basis, is please focus on quantity over quality when you are in the ideation phase, because once you go and you are trying to build, only then you should focus on quality. But before that, when you're in the ideation phase, think of as many ideas, as many wild ideas as possible. And I mentioned the fact that we should defer any judgment. And people within your team should build upon your ideas. Even if they think that idea is not good, build upon that idea. And embrace wild ideas is obviously, I've already mentioned, fail fast, fail cheap, and fail often. And because somebody mentioned Somebody mentioned once in a great saying that I would love to stand up 100 times after I fall rather than sitting down on my feet, because to be very fair, in the corporate or in the practical world, you will fail. So you need to prepare for your failness, because you will definitely fail. The only teams that will actually come out of that failure state is people who knows that they are going to fail, and they've already have, let's say, a plan B for that. So other things, I would say that design thinking can now be applied in a very agile mode. Sometimes previously, 10, 15 years ago, design thinking was considered more of a waterfall approach, where you would immerse yourself, or you would go into a research phase, and that research phase will carry on for a month, for 2 months, 3 months. But now design thinking can be helped in more agility, because we now have tons of data available for a particular customer. We have the remote capability to test with the user, to talk to the user, to interview a particular set of users or personas. So design thinking can easily be applied in the same context of agile nature. We obviously use design thinking to create, but we use agile to deliver, and that is something that we need to keep in mind. And obviously, when we are designing and when we are producing, we definitely want to keep our users as happy as possible. And the reason why for that is because you need to make sure that whatever your product increment is, which you're producing on a weekly, on a monthly, on a quarterly basis, that is adding value. If you're not adding value by producing a product increment in your sprint, in your agile sprints, then the solution itself would not value too much. So you need to make sure that from day one or from day 7, once you start the agile sprint of design thinking, you are producing product increment that is adding value to it. And product increment by definition means that it adds value to the actual product. So what you can do for yourself by practicing design thinking, start small. One of the best advices that I got through the NNG UX certification, that whenever you try to do design thinking, pick a team of 7 to 8 individuals. 3 to 5 is obviously advisable, but don't bring a room full of people, 20, 30 people, because then you will not be able to focus on things. So I would recommend you to break them into different small teams. Because the law of one of the laws of agile is to have a small team. A small team can focus on smaller things. The classic example that we teach within our corporate spaces to our fresh graduates that come in is the example of Netflix. Netflix was not producing too much revenue. So once the management changed and the new vice president of marketing came, the first thing that he did, he brought in the agile mindset into the organization, and the first thing he did was for the product team, and the product team was broken off into 6 or 7 different teams, small teams of 3 to 5 people, and those teams, each team has a definitive sort of goal to go and maintain, and that is where they started their journey of upward trend. So focus on small team, make it part of your work. We do it for every single customer, that we have to build an empathy map, because empathy map will give us a complete understanding of who your customer is, what he's thinking, what he's doing, what he's feeling, and then we map it out in what the current status of that particular customer is. We call it the journey map, the as-is journey map. Because the as-is journey map, as I mentioned before, will give you an opportunity list. The opportunity list would not only help us put a recommendation in front of the customer that what he should, or client, what he should actually focus on, but on top of that, it's a real business value, because that is something extra to what we can offer to the customer. And then once we've got those problem statements, we need to create those into a need statement. We need to explore when we are in the ideation phase by generating multiple ideas, we need to keep in mind that we need to diverge in those ideas. And then once we have done those ideations sessions, once we've done those high energy workshops, we need to prioritize. And the way that we do prioritization is the effort impact matrix that we follow. And we pick those solutions that are easy to implement, so has effort is less and has high impact. And effective design thinking is all about being hands-on. It's all about putting it on all visual. So use your sticky notes, use your blue sticky notes, pink sticky notes, green sticky notes, because visual is more relatable to the human psychology. It has to be face-to-face, but now even in the remote setting, you can do that by using virtual remote boards. You can do this, and you definitely have to immerse yourself if you want to have an effective design thinking session. And when we say immerse yourself, the other word could be deep dive into your real user. And then the real essence, as I was mentioning to Imran before, and that real essence of design thinking is all collaboration. The more collaborative you are with your team, because you will build upon other people's ideas, you will defer any judgment, and that's where your success is. And obviously this will bring into your concrete scope. People usually ask, when do you do design thinking? I would say at every stage of the life cycle of a product or a service or anything that you want to do. So starting off a project, ideate in a specific area of a project. When you're trying to build up an MVP sort of a product, during a sprint cycle, engaging clients and customers, you do everything. You do at every stage. I have done design thinking at organizational level. I have done design thinking at product level. I have design thinking at competency or vertical level. I've done design thinking at the start of the project. We call them discovery/design thinking workshops. I've run design sprints for products to come out with an effective solution in a very small time frame. So it can be done at any point in time. You just have to put your mind to it. There's no restriction. If you're looking to build a product at the moment, I would say go and do that design thinking, as we mentioned before. Get yourself immersed into what your real users are. Know their pain points. Once you know their pain points, then you will be able to create a solution for that pain point that they have. So design thinking, my take for doing it as a timeline, you can do it anytime in your life cycle. Thank you very much. I hope this is an informative session from a practical, let's say, overview of what design thinking is and how we can apply and how do we apply on a day-to-day basis in our sessions in our corporate life. So thank you, and over to you, Imran.
Thank you very much, sir. It was really informative. We loved it. In fact, I was taking my notes as well जब आप बात कर रहे थे, because there is so much to learn every day, and especially someone who's an expert in the field. We loved it. Let me find out some questions as well, so that I can present you the questions. फोकस पे शुरू पे आप बात कर रहे थे, एंड पीपल यहाँ पे हमारी ऑडियंस जो है ना वो अर्ली स्टेज स्टार्टअप्स हैं, यूनिवर्सिटी स्टूडेंट्स हैं, उनको फोकस पे थोड़ा एलैबोरेट कर दें कि डिजाइन थिंकिंग में फोकस कैसे, उसकी क्या सिग्निफिकेंस है.
So the first thing that I want to mention, and I think I did mention even in the presentation, focus relates to your very first stage. So when you are immersing yourselves into a customer, your focus needs to be very straight on. And the reason why for that is because you can only deep dive and get the real user pain points only if you're focused. A non-focused approach can never give you enough results. And I think throughout the design thinking process, you have to be very keen in focusing your energy straight, because design thinking by looks is a very simpler process. But once you go and you apply that process on a practical level, that's where you would find out that it's more than just a process itself. It's a real ideology, and that ideology can only be practiced if you have those focus energies. So starting off with looking at what your user pain points are, because if you have not figured out what the pain points are, the only thing that you will produce is going to be a half-cooked product or a service. So focus needs to be absolutely spot on. You need to make sure that not only your focus is there, those energy levels needs to be there, because at times what happens is you would find people who would not believe in you, that whatever you're doing is something that will yield results at the end of the day. So you will see a lot of background noises, I would call them, where people would say that this is waste of time, this is something that is unnecessary, we should not be doing this, because we can straight on jump into the design phase, they call solution design, you can call it, or product design, you can call it, or technical design, you can call it. So people love to straight away jump into that, and that is something which is human psychology. We love to get our hands dirty from day one, and this is something which internationally people have strayed away from, because what they're doing right now is taking a step back, looking at what their problem statement is, taking that moment and just making sure that they have everything ready to take the next step. And this is something that I would want to give absolutely critical as an advice to all the young audience there who are in their early phases, that instead of jumping straight into a solution or a problem, you need to take a step back. Take a step back, make sure that you have all that information ready, you've got your focus ready, you've got your research ready, you've got everything that you want, and then you take the first step. Never went into something once you're not prepared. We think we are prepared, but definitely we are always wrong in that, because assumption, as I mentioned before, puts us at a very competitive disadvantage, and we want to move away from that.
थैंक यू वेरी मच खुर्रम भाई। मैं अगर इसको सादा लफ्जों में हमारे ऑडियंस चूंकि सिंध से भी है और पाकिस्तान, उनके लिए सिंप्लीफाई कर दूं, तो आपको फोकस करना है और पार्टिसिपेंट्स के ऑल आइज जिसके कहते हैं टारगेट लॉक कर लें, एंड दैट टारगेट इज कस्टमर का प्रॉब्लम क्या है, पेन पॉइंट क्या है। सो जो खुर्रम भाई ने बहुत डिटेल में एलैबोरेट किया कि वी टेंड टू जंप इन, कि जल्दी से सोल्यूशन बना दें, और हम एक्चुअली करते भी यही हैं। हमारे यहाँ तो शायद ये एक मिसकॉन्सेप्ट है कि आइडिया हम पहले दिन घर से सोच के लाए होते हैं, एंड देन वी ट्राई टू पुट दैट आइडिया ऑन द बिजनेस मॉडल कैनवस, और डिजाइन थिंकिंग प्रोसेस को भी किल कर देते हैं जब हम आइडिया और सोल्यूशन से पहले लेके आ जाते हैं। सो आपने फोकस करना है प्रॉब्लम पे, पेन पॉइंट पे, ट्राई टू फाइंड आउट।
इमरान, इसका एक बड़ी सिंपल सी एग्जांपल है हमारे कॉन्टेक्स्ट के लिहाज से। हम उस कम्युनिटी या उस से ताल्लुक रखते हैं जहाँ पे डॉक्टर्स से हमारी मुलाकात बहुत ज़्यादा होती है। तो अगर हम डॉक्टर्स के पास जाएं और डॉक्टर के पास जाके अभी हमने अपना दर्द बताना शुरू ही किया है कि डॉक्टर साहब हमें यहाँ पे दर्द हो रही है, और वो उसी वक्त बगैर सुने गोली सामने रख दे, तो हम कभी भी उस डॉक्टर पे बिलीव नहीं करते कि यार इसने तो हमारी बात सुनी नहीं, इसको तो पता ही नहीं कि मुझे पेट का दर्द हो रहा है, मुझे सर की दर्द की दवाई क्यों दे रहा है। तो आपको इसलिए अपने मरीज की दर्द को जानना बड़ा जरूरी होता है, बिकॉज देन यू कैन ओनली गिव हिम द राइट पेन किलर। आप उसको सही पेन किलर तब दे सकते हैं कि जी पेट की दर्द है, कि टांग की दर्द है, कि सर की दर्द है, या वैसे ही गैस घूम रही है। सो ऑल ऑफ दैट इज एग्जैक्टली रिलेटेबल टू व्हाट वी डू यहाँ पे डिजाइन थिंकिंग के कॉन्सेप्ट में। अपने हमारी प्रैक्टिकल जो उसकी एप्लीकेशन है उसके अंदर आप कोई भी प्रोजेक्ट उठाएंगे, उसके अंदर आपको ये जरूर पता करना है कि पेन पॉइंट है क्या जिसको आप सही करने जा रहे हैं। अगर आपको पेन पॉइंट का आइडिया है जो आप सही करने जा रहे हैं, तो आपका सोल्यूशन हमेशा से सही हो।
ग्रेट पॉइंट, एब्सोल्युटली, कि अगर आपने पेन पॉइंट, और डॉक्टर की एग्जांपल बहुत राइट आपने खुर्रम दी, बिकॉज इससे हर कोई रिलेट कर सकता है। डॉक्टर के पास जाके आप बैठते हैं और वो आपको दवाई लिख के पर्ची थमा दे, तो आप कहेंगे यार ये कैसा बंदा है, इसने मुझे पूछा ही नहीं कि मुझे क्या मसला है, और मुझे पहले हम जनरली स्टार्टअप यही करता है कि वो पहले प्रोडक्ट ले आता है, फिर कहता है कि अच्छा इसका कोई बायर ढूंढ दे मुझे कोई। एंड द नंबर वन रीजन ग्लोबली स्टार्टअप फेल्स इज हैविंग अ प्रोडक्ट विदाउट अ कस्टमर। इसीलिए हम डिजाइन थिंकिंग पे इतना ज्यादा एम्फेसिस डाल रहे हैं, और आपको लाने का एक पर्पस ये भी था कि एक बहुत बड़ी कंपनी है वहां पे भी देख लें, ताकि स्टार्टअप्स देखें कि वहां पे डिजाइन थिंकिंग की कितनी इंपॉर्टेंस है। अगर एक बड़ा कॉर्पोरेट उस पर इतना एम्फोसिस डाल रहा है तो स्टार्टअप को रियलाइज करना चाहिए कि उसके लिए तो बहुत ज्यादा जरूरी है फिर,
देखिए
बिकॉज आपका
स्टार्टअप्स के लिए सॉरी आपकी बात काट रहा हूँ, स्टार्टअप्स के लिए एक बड़ी क्लियर एग्जांपल है, हर एक के पास अब तो इंटरनेट की फैसिलिटी अवेलेबल है, गूगल हमारे फिंगर टिप्स के ऊपर है। अगर आप थोड़ा सा स्टार्टअप के ऊपर रिसर्च भी करें तो स्टार्टअप आइडियाज जो कि सक्सेसफुल हुए हैं, अगर आप उनको उनके यूज केस को देखें तो वो वही हैं जिन्होंने एक्चुअली कोई प्रॉब्लम इंडस्ट्री में मार्केट में देखा है और उस प्रॉब्लम को उन्होंने अपने सोल्यूशन अपने प्रोडक्ट के थ्रू सॉल्व करने की कोशिश की, और वही इस वक्त जो है वो वही कामयाब हुए हैं। आप उबर की एग्जांपल ले लें, आप एग्जांपल ले लें क्या नाम है, करीम की एग्जांपल ले लें। एक प्रॉब्लम था जो कि लार्जर कम्युनिटी सेट पे देखा कि लोगों को कम्यूट में प्रॉब्लम होती है, वो कम्यूट का प्रॉब्लम उन्हें रिजॉल्व करने के लिए एक उबराइजेशन का मॉडल निकाला। तो जो भी आप स्टार्टअप उठाएंगे जो कि सक्सेसफुल स्टार्टअप के तौर पे इस वक्त जा रहे हैं, उन्होंने हमारी लाइफस्टाइल के, हमारी सोसाइटीज के रियल प्रॉब्लम्स को एड्रेस किया है और वो जो है वो हो गए हैं।
बिल्कुल, और ये अली रहमान खान ने इसको राइट समराइज किया, इज अ वेरी एक्टिव पार्टिसिपेंट, कि द एंटरप्रेन्योर्स शुड फॉल इन लव विद द प्रॉब्लम नॉट विद द सॉल्यूशन। एंड जनरली हमारे डायलेमा यही है कि एंटरप्रेन्योर्स टेंड टू फॉल इन लव विद द सॉल्यूशन और वो सॉल्यूशन को ओन करना शुरू कर देते हैं।
बिल्कुल ऐसे ही है जी, बिल्कुल ऐसे ही है। बिकॉज जब हम एक मिसकंसेप्शन जो हमारे यहाँ फिलहाल अभी तक डेवलप है, इनफैक्ट दिस इज अक्रॉस एवरी कंट्री ऑल ओवर द वर्ल्ड एट द मोमेंट, बिकॉज डिजाइन थिंकिंग या ह्यूमन सेंटर्ड डिजाइन प्रैक्टिस अभी इवॉल्व हो रही है। वो यही है कि डिजाइनर जो है वो एक क्रिएटिव या इंटीरियर डिजाइन की बात करती है। हम जिसको डिजाइनर बोलते हैं वो बंदा है जो कि प्रॉब्लम्स को हेड ऑन लेता है, ठीक है। तो प्रॉब्लम्स को सॉल्व करना ही डिजाइनर का काम है। सो एनीवन कुड बी अ डिजाइनर। आप, मैं, कोई भी ऐसा बंदा जो कि किसी एक प्रॉब्लम को सही तरीके से सॉल्व कर दे, ही इज एब्सोल्युटली अ डिजाइनर, ठीक है। जो एंड प्रोडक्ट होता है, दैट्स द एंड प्रोडक्ट, द रिजल्ट ऑफ दैट डिजाइन थिंकिंग एफर्ट जो कि पीछे डाली गई थी, जिसमें आपकी डिस्कशंस होती हैं, आपकी बहस होती हैं, आपकी बहुत सारी लड़ाइयाँ होती हैं, आपके डिफरेंट किस्म के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यूज होते हैं जो कि बाकी लोगों से मैच नहीं कर रहे होते। तो वो सारा प्रोसेस इज डिजाइन थिंकिंग जो कि आपने उसके अंदर शामिल किया है, और फिर इवेंचुअली आपने एक प्रोडक्ट को जो है वो प्रोड्यूस करके आगे लेके गए।
थैंक यू वेरी मच खुर्रम भाई, हमने एक बहुत एलेबोरेट पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू कॉर्पोरेट का भी और स्टार्टअप साइड का डिजाइन थिंकिंग पे हमने अपने ऑडियंस के लिए प्रेजेंट कर दिया है। एंड वी रियली होप कि ये बेनिफिट करे और पाकिस्तान में एक कल्चरल चेंज आए कि आपने प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करना है, यू टेंड टू फॉल इन लव विद द प्रॉब्लम्स और प्रॉब्लम सॉल्वर्स बने। और अगर ये फेल भी हो जाएंगे, देखिए मेरी तो एफर्ट ये है कि अगर, और हमारी इस पूरे प्रोग्राम की, कि अगर ये प्रॉब्लम सॉल्वर माइंडसेट ले आते हैं और फेल भी हो जाते हैं, यू विल वैल्यू देम। कल को आपके पास एक बच्चा सीवी लेके आएगा हु इज गुड प्रॉब्लम सॉल्वर और वो स्टार्टअप में फेल भी हुआ है, डेफिनेटली यू विल वैल्यू दैट पर्सन मोर देन समवन जिसने कुछ ट्राई नहीं किया हुआ।
देखिए जी, मैं आपको यहाँ पे एक कॉन्सेप्ट बता दूं। कॉर्पोरेट वर्ल्ड के अंदर पीपल हु हैव फेल्ड इन देयर लाइफ, स्पेशली फ्रॉम अ स्टार्टअप बैकग्राउंड, आर कंसिडर्ड मोर वैल्यूएबल। उसकी वजह ये है कि उन्होंने अपने हाथ से कुछ ना कुछ करने की कोशिश की थी एंड दे हैव फेल्ड। फेलियर इज नॉट समथिंग दैट वी जज, हम लोगों को जज नहीं करते फेलियर के ऊपर, but we actually see के where has the effort been put in. If the effort been put in to produce something, कुछ निकालने के लिए, प्रोड्यूस करने के लिए कोई एफर्ट की गई है, दैट इज वेयर वी लुक एट। तो उस लिहाज से स्टार्टअप के लोग, इवन इफ दे फेल, अगेन जो कम्युनिटी देख रही है, यंगस्टर जो देख रहे हैं, प्लीज ये एक बहुत ही, आप कह लें कि एक समराइज किस्म का जो एक्सपीरियंस है वो आपके सामने रखा जा रहा है फॉर द पास्ट 17-18 ईयर्स। वो यही है कि फेलियर के ऊपर कभी भी आपने, यू शुड नेवर स्टॉप once you have a failure. Failure is something that have made you learn a lot more than your success. आपको सक्सेस से ज्यादा आपका फेलियर सिखाता है। So keep that notion in mind. ये आपको आपके लाइफ के किसी भी हिस्से में जो है वो जरूर काम आएगा, और स्पेशली कॉर्पोरेट में तो ये चलता ही चलता है।
थैंक यू वेरी मच खुर्रम भाई फॉर एंडोर्सिंग दिस। मैं ये कहता होता हूँ कि फेलियर इज अ मेडल ऑन योर चेस्ट, फॉर स्टार्टअप फेलियर इज अ मेडल ऑन योर चेस्ट। और आप गाइस सुन लें, कॉर्पोरेट से एक बहुत सीनियर कॉर्पोरेट लीडर उसको इंडोर्स कर रहे हैं कि फेलियर इज अ मेडल फॉर यू एंड डोंट बी अफ्रेड। और एक अफोर्डेबल लॉस का क्विकली एक डिजाइन बनाएं, बिजनेस मॉडल बनाएं, एक एक्सपेरिमेंट बनाएं, फेल करें। you learn more or you'll be valued more. और कल को अगर खुदा न खास्ता अगर आपका स्टार्टअप फेल भी हो जाता है and you need a job, तो you'll be valued more. You become a better professional और फिर हर जगह आपकी वैल्यू बढ़ जाएगी.
देखिए अभी हमारा तो उतना एक्सपीरियंस नहीं है, फिर भी अगर हम अपने आप को कंपेयर करें, पीपल लाइक स्टीव जॉब्स, अगर स्टीव जॉब्स ये कहता है कि नेवर बी अफ्रेड टू फेल, स्टे फूलिश, स्टे हंग्री, तो वहीं पे बात खत्म हो जाती है. पीपल हु हैव डन इट इन द पास्ट और हैव डन इट सक्सेसफुली टू अ लेवल जो कि इस वक्त एक बेंचमार्क बन चुका है.
सर थैंक यू वेरी मच, वी लव दिस सेशन. और कुछ फॉलोअप क्वेश्चंस समराइज करके आपको बाद में आपको भेजेंगे. और वी रिक्वेस्ट काइंडली लेक्चर स्लाइड्स, बहुत सारे लोग चाह रहे हैं कि आप वो लेक्चर नोट्स शेयर कर दें ताकि देखें, वो हम ऑडियंस आपसे शेयर कर देंगे. थैंक यू वेरी मच वंस अगेन खुर्रम भाई, इट वाज अ ग्रेट सेशन. योर कंक्लूडिंग रिमार्क्स.
जी बस the only concluding remarks I have is that I will end the same notion as Steve Jobs said before, which I explained, कि your failure should never stop you. आपके failures आपको stop नहीं करें. Stay foolish, stay hungry, and make sure that you keep investing your efforts in the right direction. Success will come, inshallah. जब आपने मेहनत की होती है तो आपकी मदद जो है वो खुद हो जाती है. अल्लाह आपकी मदद खुद करता है. So you should always keep pushing yourselves towards the right side.
Thank you very much, Khurram bhai. We loved it. With this, we are letting you go. Thank you very much. मैं कुछ सेशन का एक दो अनाउंसमेंट्स के लिए जरूरी आज के प्रोग्राम के लिए. Thank you very much. It was an honor to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Khurram bhai. Have a good day. आपस और पार्टिसिपेंट्स, एक ज़रूरी अनाउंसमेंट के जो आज का सेशन था हमारा एट 12 PM विद मिस्टर इख्तियार कोसो ऑन बिजनेस मॉडल डिज़ाइन, वो शिफ्ट हो गया है 1 PM पे ड्यू टू सम अनअवॉइडेबल रीजंस. और वो 1 बजे हम आपसे दोबारा मिलेंगे बिजनेस मॉडल डिज़ाइन पे. डिज़ाइन थिंकिंग और बिजनेस मॉडल दोनों मैंने कल इंट्रोड्यूस कर दिए थे. वी हैड अ डिटेल डिस्कशन एज वेल, लेकिन डिज़ाइन थिंकिंग बहुत एलैबोरेट बिल्ड किया आज खुर्रम भाई ने हमारे साथ. सिस्टम्स लिमिटेड एक बहुत बड़ी पाकिस्तान की IT कंपनी है और ये उसमें VP डिज़ाइन है, और इन्होंने आपके लिए बिल्ड किया डिज़ाइन थिंकिंग को. और अगले सेशन में इख्तियार खोसो साहब डायरेक्टर फॉर एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप हैं एट IBS सक्कर, वो आपके लिए बिजनेस मॉडल डिज़ाइन को बिल्ड करेंगे ताकि बिजनेस मॉडल की तरफ हम ये डिज़ाइन थिंकिंग कैसे आपको बिजनेस मॉडल में और बिजनेस मॉडल कैनवस में हेल्प करेगी, ये वहाँ पे हम बिल्ड करेंगे. आज सुबह हमने एक लिंक आपसे शेयर किया था विच इज़ ए वेरी कॉम्प्रेस्ड एक्सीलेंट वीडियो. कोई 6 वीडियोज हैं, 3 मिनट्स ईच एंड 15 से 15 मिनट के अराउंड वीडियोज हैं, विच इज़ ए कंप्लीट गाइड फ्रॉम आइडिया टू बिजनेस. सो उसको ज़रूर देखें. उसके अंदर एक अच्छी चीज़ ये है कि आप YouTube पे जाएं, वो लेक्चर सीरीज़ खोलें, वो वीडियो सीरीज़ खोलें और सेटिंग्स में जाके यू कैन सेट अप, यू कैन चूज योर रीजनल लैंग्वेज. आप उसको उर्दू में सबटाइटल उसके ऑन कर सकते हैं, इवन पंजाबी, पश्तो, रीजनल लैंग्वेजेस में आप उसके सबटाइटल ऑन कर सकते हैं. तो वो जो 15 मिनट की वीडियो है उसको आप अपने रीजनल सबटाइटल्स ऑन करके अपनी नेशनल लैंग्वेज या रीजनल लैंग्वेज के सबटाइटल ऑन करके जरूर देखें. दैट वुड हेल्प यू अ लॉट. और अगले सेशन से पहले अगर आप वो देख लेंगे तो दिस वुड बेटर हेल्प यू इन बेटर वे कि आप बिजनेस मॉडल को फॉलो बेहतर करें और जल्दी से बिजनेस मॉडल बिल्ड करने की तरफ जाएं. सो थैंक यू वेरी मच. इट्स एन एक्साइटिंग जर्नी, एज वी से इट्स अ रोलर कोस्टर जर्नी. वेलकम ऑन बोर्ड. और अभी वी आर जस्ट हिटिंग द मिड वे कल, और exciting times ahead. Looking forward. Thank you very much. You have a good day.